Hello everyone. Guess what? Today I'm going to talk about sex. I am reading this book called The 40-Day Journey to Purity. It's a journal for girls by Kris Vallotton and Jason Vallotton. And I'm going to read you day 28. So what is sex? God intended sexuality to be expressed solely within the boundaries of a marriage covenant. He did this because the purpose of sex is not merely to give pleasure, but also to create families. This was so good today that it's going to bless you. Society is on a mission to prove that sex is nothing more than a physical act performed with minimal to no consequences. The problem is that there is no such thing as a sexual act without consequences. Sex affects your spirit, soul, and body, and also the future of all your relationships, because it affects your mind and how you think, and so it will affect your everyday life. Sex does something that nothing else can. It makes two people one flesh. You can steward and protect this God-created union, or you can neglect it, you can ignore it, you can be in denial and destroy it. But you can't escape its existence. The fact is that God designed it to be a certain way and to produce certain things, and so we can't get away from God's original design. Sex does something else that nothing else can. It creates children. You might think this is stating the obvious, which it is, but if you look around at this age of contraception and abortion, a lot of people have been working really hard to ignore, forget, or destroy this consequence of sex, this effect. I would say effect, because that's a whole different tangent that I personally have, because I had a daughter when I was 16. But children are never a consequence. Side note. But our biotechnology can never really erase God's biological design, and working against that design always comes at a price. Cutting sex off from all its physical and spiritual effects will keep you from seeing what sex really is. Accepting these consequences, effects, however, will help you understand God's design and how to honor it. Sex bonds you to your spouse. It makes babies and bonds you to those babies. Sex, when stewarded correctly, will lead you and your husband on a beautiful journey of the unique intimacy that makes a family. You'll do yourself a big favor by always keeping your desire for sex connected to your desire for marriage and family. Sex, whether you want it to or not, connects you on every level with another person, spirit to spirit, soul to soul, and body to body. So Matthew 19:4-6 says, haven't you read in your Bible that the Creator originally made man and woman for each other, male and female? Because of this, a man leaves his father and mother and is firmly bonded to his wife, becoming one flesh, no longer two bodies, but one. Because God created this organic union of the two sexes, no one should desecrate this art by cutting them apart. So I think that's the same as a different version would say, like what God has brought together, don't let anybody separate. And so hopefully you can see by now that God doesn't want you to wait to have sex. Hopefully you can see by now that God doesn't want you to wait to have sex in marriage because he likes to tempt you or because he loves rules. He's not trying to stop you from having a good, pleasurable time. God understands that sex creates something that should only be shared between two people that are committed to each other for life. Without this commitment, sex is unprotected, no matter how many condoms or birth control pills are involved. And unprotected sex is hazardous to your emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical health. This is alive and activated, right? Like, I love our bodies. I love how we were created to move and operate and go about our lives. And I love having the Spirit of God in us. And so this is a big deal. Like, it's a big deal. And we were created for that intimacy. I was actually talking with my daughter yesterday about how it is an ultimate reflection of the intimacy that we have with God. Like, God lives inside of us, and he is closer to us than anybody else. And that special relationship is something that is reflected through sex. When you get married with your husband, it's a special bond that you won't have with anyone else. So to be able to protect that is such a blessing. So it's actually God's desire that we experience that pleasure, because there are pleasures forevermore, right, at his right hand. And it's a reflection of that intimacy, because we were created for that. So when you think about sex, do you think about the context of marriage and intimacy with your spouse? Why or why not? How can you prepare now to protect the one flesh reality that you will create with your spouse? And describe some of the consequences that result from treating sex as something without an emotional, spiritual, or relational consequence. And then I'll read this last question is, ask God, well, it's not a question, but you ask God to show you where you can better align your desire for sex with your desire for marriage and family. All right, guys, dig in. I don't want to make this video too long, but I hope that was helpful and encouraging, and I'll talk about this some more, because it's important, and I want you guys all to be free in your body, mind, and spirit, in your emotions. And honestly, are at the core, this desire for intimacy, this desire to be known, can lead us to try and fulfill those desires out of our own flesh and using our bodies, or reaching out to meet those real needs in a way that's out of God's original design. And so the more we talk about God's original design, the more we can press forward together in community to experience God's original design. And that makes me excited. So I love y'all, and you're alive, so let's get activated. Have a good day.